Hey, NFL free agency has been absolutely crazy, but with the bulk of the names out of the way, it's time to pop, lock, and mock it. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back. Next episode, Fantasy Headliners, joined once again by my good old buddy, old pal, Kyle Richardson. Me and Kyle doing another show together. How we doing, Kyle?
I'm doing well. I have noticed in the comments that there's been a couple of people who have said, I want a longer show.
Well, this one's going to be a little bit longer. We're going to try to keep it to that 20 to 25 minute range, but we do want to go through one more mock draft. This will be our 5.0 version. But after all the moves from free agency, it really kind of changed some of the team needs here for some of these teams, and it kind of didn't make sense with our last mock, so why not redo it? It's our channel, Kyle. We can make as many mocks as we want.
Yeah, no, as I was redoing the mock draft, I kept thinking to myself, now it's even more difficult than it was the first time. First 4 times we did it.
Yeah, because there's some teams that had glaring needs, and they just addressed them in free agency, so that changes the draft a lot. But we're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're going to get into it. I'm going to have the graphic up here on the screen for you guys to check out. But we're going to start off at number 1 because that's where everybody starts off, so why not be like everybody else in this show? Let's start off with the Arizona Cardinals. We still have them taking Kyler Murray number 1. Now, you and I talked off camera before the show. We're sold on Kyler Murray going number 1, but I don't know if we're sold on it being the Arizona Cardinals taking him. As of right now, though, that's who we have going number 1 overall.
Yeah, Kyler Murray is going number 1 overall. It just depends on who. So right now we're going to stick with Arizona because the talk is Josh Rosen will get traded at some point, but this pick right here is going to drive the rest of the draft because is Josh Rosen going to get traded? If he does, to who? Well, that's going to take away one quarterback need. Who's going to jump up? As soon as a trade happens, then we might know a little bit more about this. But until that happens, it could be anybody really at this point.
Yeah, there's just so many other possibilities. As of right now, we're going to go with what we have in front of us. Cardinals being the number 1 pick, going Kyler Murray. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers, I guess, assemble a super team on the defensive line, Kyle, because can they really pass on some of these edge rushers? Not really, but do they really need these edge rushers? They just signed D Ford, but they still have a chance here to take Nick Bosa, number 2 overall.
Yeah, this would be a luxury pick, but again, we've talked about it before. Nick Bosa is the safest player in this draft, in my opinion. So you have to go with him here. The only other way it doesn't happen is if they trade out of this spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of talent there on that defensive line. Number 3 overall, the New York Football Jets, Jets, Jets. We have them taking Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Another one of these guys who kind of has fluctuated in some of our mock drafts, but he really feels the need for the Jets.
Yeah, and I mean, they got burned a little bit by Anthony Barr deciding to not sign with them, but they still made some pretty good moves this offseason. So they are looking to compete, and having Quinnen Williams on that front line, talked about it a little bit like in our Le'Veon Bell show, a little bit more about how that defense has looked. Quinnen Williams just helps step that up another notch.
Yep, agreed. All right, moving on to number 4, the Oakland Raiders, their first pick here in the first round. They get Josh Allen, edge rusher out of Kentucky. And we've said it in the past, it doesn't really seem to matter who we mock draft to the Raiders fans. There's always somebody who's pissed about it. But I really think that Josh Allen right here, it really fills a need and really gives them somebody that they can build a young defense around. The problem is they gave away Khalil Mack, who could have been the same thing almost. But Josh Allen falls to him here, and it's a great pick for him.
Yeah, and hopefully I want Raiders fans to comment below and let us know how we did on this one, because I feel like this is the best one that we've done for the Raiders in terms of them being happy with it.
Well, let's hope so, because they got a lot of talent, a lot of things turning around for Oakland. All right, number 5, the Tampa Bay Bucks. And this one may be a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a shock, but they lost Quan Alexander, so they go out and they draft Devin White, linebacker out of LSU.
Devin White was not a guy that I ever considered putting here to Tampa Bay until this mock. And when I started looking at it, I said, you know what? This makes a whole lot of sense with Quan Alexander being gone. Quan Alexander, a very fast individual, a guy that can get all over the place fast, stop the run. He can get out and get a hold of some of those wide receivers or running backs trying to receive as well. Devin White is an extremely fast linebacker, very athletic, that can do the same exact thing. So he would jump right into that role.
Yep, agreed. All right, number 6. The New York Giants. I have no idea what the Giants are doing. I don't know if the Giants have any idea what they're doing. It sounds like they're going to stick with Eli. It sounds like they're cool with him looking like he just ate a fresh pack of Crayolas. It doesn't really seem to matter. He looks like he's going to be the quarterback this year. So with that being said, they're losing Olivier Vernon. So they go out and get Montez Sweat, edge rusher out of Mississippi State.
Yeah, him and Rashawn Gary are really like back and forth right now in terms of that number 3 edge rusher behind Bosa and Allen. I do bump Sweat up here at this point though, because when you look at it, we've talked about offensive linemen here. We've talked about quarterbacks here. We thought with the trade of OBJ, they were going to cash it in, but now they've got Golden Tate. So it looks like they are still going to try to compete. So why not give them a piece that would actually help them compete this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And his name makes me want to sing that song, I'm going to make you sweat till you bleed. Remember that song? All right, anyway, moving on. Now we're going to number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trying to lighten up the mood a little bit here, Kyle. Let's see here. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, number 7. They just went out and paid a buttload of money for Nick Foles, so why not try to protect him a little bit and get Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle out of Florida?
Yeah, and a lot of people say Jonah Williams is the top tackle in this class. And I will debate with them that Jawan Taylor has a little bit higher ceiling than what Williams does. Williams is very safe, very good. But Taylor really, really showed out at the combine and really impressed a lot of people. I think he's trending up right now. So yeah, exactly. They need to protect Nick Foles. Why don't we do that with Taylor?
Yep, agreed. Number 8, the Detroit Lions. They get to keep one of their own at home. They go out and get Michigan edge rusher Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, and this is where I've had Devin White going. And basically with the moves that Detroit has made, I have said if Devin White is there, Devin White will be the guy. I would love to see Devin Bush here as well. But Rashawn Gary, too much to pass up on. They still need, he's a versatile guy. They can move him inside. They can move him outside. They do still have some decent talent on that offensive line. They've made moves on the offensive line as well. But I like him going here if Devin White is not available.
Yeah, he gives them that versatility for sure. All right, number 9, the Buffalo Bills. In our last few mock drafts, we've always had them taking a wide receiver. They needed help at the wide receiver position. Well, they kind of addressed it during free agency with John Brown and Cole Beasley. So now they go out and get Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. Really gives them a force on the defensive line.
Yes. Yep. And for Ed Oliver to really fall to number 9, this is great for the Buffalo Bills. So he will slot in there perfectly. This is an excellent pick for them if it happens.
Yep. Number 10 is probably going to be a shock to some people, but we're going to stick by it. The Denver Broncos, yes, they have Joe Flacco, but would you be excited if you had Joe Flacco? Probably not. So why not go out in the draft and find somebody to be the future of the franchise? We have Drew Lock, quarterback out of Mizzou, being the second quarterback off the board here in this draft.
Yeah, over Haskins, because I think there is a potential for Haskins to slip a little bit. Just because a lot of things at the quarterback position have already happened. We don't think the Giants are going to take one. I think it's clear that Miami's not planning on winning this year, so they will take the first pick next year and they'll pick a quarterback then. But the Broncos and John Elway have already said that they like Drew Lock a lot. So I think they take him over Haskins. And now that Case Keenum is out of town and they've gotten rid of him, they're going to end up needing to have somebody anyway. So they'll go with him here and they'll let him groom behind Flacco for a couple of years.
Nothing like grooming behind Flacco. All right, let's see. You're talking about being set up for failure. Moving on. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. This is where we have another one of your boys, Devin Bush. Was it like that commercial? Bush.
You keep bringing up things I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a beer commercial, Kyle. I don't drink it. I don't drink it either, but at least I know the commercial. Anyway, Devin Bush, linebacker out of Michigan, going number 11 to the Cincinnati Bengals.
In the very first mock we did, I put Devin Bush here, and people were like, no way this guy goes that high. And then he goes out and he basically goes punch for punch with Devin White in the combine and really shows people he deserves to be talked about as the top linebacker. The reason I love this so much is because I've talked about that offensive line before, the ability for them to open up gaps. They have Atkins right there in the middle. They have Dunlap on the outside as well as an edge. There's going to be a lot of room for Devin Bush to really shoot through those gaps, get to the quarterback, get to running backs early. Their scheme would fit him perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 12, the Green Bay Packers. And no, before you see the name and think that we've gone bat crazy, we're not exactly that crazy. We have Noah Fant, tight end out of Iowa. And for me, We kind of heard a lot of rumors here before free agency of some possible weapons going to Green Bay. Well, none of them really came to fruition. They need some more help there on the offensive side with playmakers. Noah Fant could fill a need for the Packers here.
Yeah, and I mean they're going to need a safety. They're going to need a safety at some point, but there's no safeties that I looked at and I thought to myself, taking them this early, is that a great fit for them over taking a receiving Noah Fant? You said it. There was a lot of talk about different wide receivers. I mean, they re-signed Geronimo Allison, so that's great. He could be the number 2. Randall Cobb is out of town, though. They're going to need a little bit of help. Jimmy Graham is just not what he used to be. But I mean, that'd be a great person to learn from with Fant. So kept messing that one up. Anyway, that's why we put him here, because I think it's such a good fit, and there isn't a safety that I would put here over the top of him right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit too early for some of the safeties on the board. All right, number 13, the Miami Dolphins. They are hashtag tanking for Tua right now because they don't really even have a quarterback. But why not give somebody to protect a quarterback for when they get one? Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama, goes right here 13th overall to Miami.
I really don't know what to say about the Dolphins.
I don't think the Dolphins know what to say about the Dolphins.
Why would they take a tackle if they don't have? But you might as well get him now, get him inserted into the offensive line and get him ready to really grow this year and get through those learning curves and things like that. And then next year, your offensive line is upgraded for whatever rookie you take number 1 overall.
Yeah, and if they're tanking for Tua, he's familiar with Jonah Williams. They played together in college. You know what?
Perfect.
They're building connections, Kyle. Maybe they're smarter than we all think they are. Number 14, the Atlanta Falcons. We have them taking Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson, would really give them a huge presence on the defensive line.
I'm glad you said it right, since I accidentally screwed up the name in the spreadsheet.
I didn't even. I know how to read, so it's okay.
No, they need somebody right there in the middle. So Christian Wilkins, I think, is a little bit underrated by people. They don't think he can be nearly as versatile as what I think he could end up being, but he's a terrific run stopper and a perfect fit. So I think this is a great fit for them. They're going to take defensive tackle no matter who's there, really, I think.
Yeah, it just depends which one falls to them. All right, number 15, the Washington Redskins. Another little bit of a head scratcher to a few. They have a quarterback for the year. Whether they're going to be, able to win games or not is still yet to be seen, but they need a future. Here, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State, would go in and have some time to learn. I mean, they got Darius Geis coming back. They could have a nice young nucleus there for the Redskins, but this year's probably going to be ugly for them.
Yeah, and I think I think honestly it ends up being a good pick for them and a pick that happens if Haskins slides that far. Did a little bit more research before putting this one together, and it does sound like there are some people who are concerned that he could start to slip. There are some people too that think Locke is a better pick than Haskins. So we're not the only ones who think that. But I also think there is still a possibility that someone could end up moving up, like the Redskins, if they decide to, even if, we have him falling here, but if they get the sense that he won't fall, they could be one of those teams that decide to try to move up and get a hold of their quarterback.
Yep, agreed. All right, number 16, the Carolina Panthers. It's not a sexy pick, but it's a necessary pick. Dalton Reisner, offensive tackle out of Kansas State. Really need to address that offensive line. They really have a lot of needs they need to address there in Carolina, but he fills a need for them there on the offensive line. Ever since Andrew Norwell left, 2 seasons ago, that offensive line has really struggled to have some cohesiveness.
Yeah, I mean they need to protect Cam Newton. They need to continue to build this offense around Christian McCaffrey. They have the weapons there. They just need Cam Newton to have as much time as possible to exploit those weapons. You could argue defensive player going here instead. But looking in terms of needs and best player available, I thought this was the best one to slot in.
Yep, he is definitely somebody that could help them out. Number 17, the New York Giants once again. The pick they get from Cleveland, sending OBJ to Cleveland. We have them taking Greedy Williams, arguably the top cornerback in the draft out of LSU.
Yeah, I still have Byron Murphy as my cornerback one. But I go with Greedy Williams here because I think the name still holds a little bit more value than what I would like it to. And I think this is definitely a pick where the Giants please fans with it. Not saying that they would purposely only make this pick because of that, but I think the name is a lot better than Byron Murphy and helps a little bit more in terms of taking a cornerback right here.
Yeah, right now they got to do whatever they can to make those fans happy because they are pissed.
And
Anyway,
let me just say by name, I'm not saying pick him because his name was Greedy. I'm just saying Greedy Williams. I just want to clarify that before I get a bunch of comments below about what is this idiot doing? He's picking players based. No. He just has a little bit more name value because of who he is, not because his name is Greedy. I just needed to clarify that.
Okay, well, thank you for throwing that out there, Kyle, because even I was thinking about it. Not really. Anyway, all right, number 18, the Minnesota Vikings. They have needs on the offensive line, and we've basically had an offensive lineman going here in almost every one of our mock drafts. Here is no different. They get Cody Ford, offensive lineman out of Oklahoma. They need to protect Kirk Cousins a little bit better. And now that we know Dalvin Cook's going to be the lead guy, no Latavius Murray, they need to try to open up some holes for him also.
Yeah, Cody Ford is my top interior offensive lineman. So for him to fall right here to the Minnesota Vikings is excellent for them. I tell you what, I'm excited for Dalvin Cook this year, and this would help a whole lot.
A lot of people are going to be excited for some Dalvin Cook. He's going to be a great value come draft season.
Mm-hmm.
Number 19, the Tennessee Titans. They get Brian Burns, edge rusher out of Florida State. Earlier when we were doing these mock drafts, everybody's like, this guy is not going to be a first-round pick. He changed a lot of people's minds here over the last few weeks, and he would be a great fit in a Tennessee Titans defense. It's already has a lot of good pieces in place.
I don't like the play. I don't like to play the "I told you so" card, but I was bringing up Brian Burns' name quite a bit in our first mock drafts, and like you said, a lot of people didn't really see that. But boy, did he have one heck of a combine! The biggest thing was him, just like him overall, like thickness, being that big, being that big defensive lineman that you get that can just maul people, and he quieted some of that with his weight. So he's checked all the boxes. He's ready to roll. He's definitely one of my top edge rushers. The only reason I have him this far down is because I think that there's still some other teams that value other guys, but he might be right behind Bosa for me in terms of edge rushers. I would pick him over Allen personally. First
of all, wow. Second of all, you lost me after you commented on the dude's thickness. So I was gone. All right, let's move on here. Number 20 overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, they have some need on the defensive side of the football. Here we have them taking, in some people's opinion, the top defensive back here in the draft, Byron Murphy out of what you would like to refer to as Washington as DBU.
Thank you for making sure that you said that.
Yep,
Not even a Washington fan, but Byron Murphy is my cornerback one. Again, I just mentioned it a couple of minutes ago with Greedy Williams, why I think those two intertwine. But I think in terms of Greedy Williams and Byron Murphy is a little bit cleaner in terms of footwork and things like that. So that's why I have him a little bit higher than Greedy Williams. But the Steelers would love to get him here anyway, so perfect for them.
Yep, absolutely. All right, number 21, the Seattle Seahawks. No more Earl Thomas. They need a safety. They get it right here. Nasir Adderley, safety out of Delaware. Even though it's a small school, people are starting to realize that this kid's talent from the safety position is almost second to none in this draft.
In our last mock draft, someone said, why in the hell would they draft Nasir Adderley? No one even knows who that is. And my response was, if you don't know who he is, you shouldn't be commenting on it. So if you don't know who Nasir Adderley is, go do your homework on this kid, because if you're a Seahawks fan and you're like, I don't like this one, trust me, by the end of 2019, you will love this draft pick. Nasir Adderley is a gamer. He is a top safety. He's going to make a name for himself in this league. So I love this kid. Excellent player.
Yeah, and he fits that defense there in Seattle. Number 22 overall, the Baltimore Ravens. Here we have them taking DK Metcalf, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Obviously, they need some more weapons there on the outside. They really don't have a whole lot to work with outside of Lamar Jackson and now Mark Ingram. Are we completely sold that DK Metcalf is the number one wide receiver in this draft? No, but I think right here he holds that name value, kind of like you were talking about with Greedy Williams, and ends up getting taken even though he may not be the best, the top pro-ready wide receiver anyway here in the draft.
Yeah, that'd be N'Keal Harry for me. If when I'm ranking my wide receivers, he's by far the safest receiver. Really nice floor with a good ceiling. But Metcalf right now probably has the highest ceiling out of everyone. We just don't have the track record with him at this point. I think he's a wide receiver one for a lot of people for that reason. And that's why we're going to go with him here, because I do believe he will end up being the top one off the board. In the last mock we did, we sent him to Buffalo, but Buffalo signed Beasley, and they signed, and I'm blanking, John Brown. Yes. So they signed Brown, they signed Beasley. So they're not, I don't think they're going to take a wide receiver now. So he falls all the way down here in terms of need, because all the wide receivers that move during free agency, I just don't see a need for teams to jump and grab them in the first round, or I would have more here, which we did in the last mock draft.
Yeah. Going back to real quick, Beasley and Brown, are they the new killer bees?
No.
Okay. Anyway, just checking. Asking for a friend, Kyle. Number 23 overall, the Houston Texans. Another one of these consensus picks. We've had it in every single mock. They're going to go offensive line. It's not sexy, but they need to protect Deshaun Watson, keep him healthy, keep him there in the game. Andre Dillard, offensive tackle out of Washington State, is the pick here.
He was a big riser after the combine. He's seen his value jump quite a bit. So,
yeah, well, hopefully we'll go on to number 24 here, and hopefully we can continue to keep the Oakland Raiders fans happy. We're going with Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama, trying to really build up that defensive side of the football since they've addressed a lot of offense here in free agency.
Yeah, they address the offense perfectly. It is now about pressuring the quarterback, stopping the run, stopping the pass, doing everything they can on defense in a division that's going to be offensive heavy. So that if they use all three picks on defensive players in the first round, I would not be surprised. And more than likely, they should really do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's where they need the most attention right now. Absolutely. All right, number 25 overall, the Philadelphia Eagles. Who's going to be their running back? They need a running back there in Philadelphia. They're going to get it right here. Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama, is who we have going there. And hopefully they can get some type of stability in that backfield. And Josh Jacobs gives them a nice young talent to build around.
Yeah, and this is the first time that we've mocked a running back to the Eagles. But, based on their game plan in free agency, it became quite clear to me that they were probably planning on doing that. If they wanted another running back, they probably would have spent the money needed to sign Tevin Coleman, which wasn't really that big of a price to compete with. Jay Ajayi, possibly gone. He hasn't been signed yet. Darren Sproles, he's not a guy that will probably end up being back. So you got Corey Clement, you've got Josh Adams, you got Wendell Smallwood, Boston Scott, Donnell Pumphrey. Do any of those guys? I'm not gonna let you say it, Jake. Do any of those guys step up and become a top running back? I don't think so. They have a pretty good defense still. They need to get someone in there to help take the pressure off of Carson Wentz, though. So I think Josh Jacobs is a good pick here for them.
Yeah, he definitely feels a need for sure. Number 26th overall, the Indianapolis Colts. We have them taking the guy who would probably have the longest last name out of anybody in the draft on his jersey, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety out of Florida, trying to stabilize that secondary there in Indianapolis.
Another rising safety from the combine. This is the first time I've mocked him into the first round. I've had Deontay Thompson in here quite a bit, but now I've dropped him back on my list of safeties. Gardner Johnson has jumped up here now, so I think he's a good fit for the Indianapolis Colts, who continue to try and bolster that defense. They didn't make very many moves in free agency. Devin Funchess was the big signing, and you don't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, well, you have all that money to spend, and you spend it on Funchess. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, now we go on to the Oakland Raiders, 27th overall. Their third pick here in the first round, DeAndre Baker, cornerback out of Georgia. You mentioned it a second ago. Addressing defense in all three first-round picks here isn't a bad idea for the Oakland Raiders.
No, and their defense goes from being one that you say, can they really stop Patrick Mahomes? Can they really stop Phillip Rivers? I mean, they can probably stop Joe Flacco no matter what. But, are those – but they go from being what do we have here to being, they might have some upside. Like Oakland might be onto something this season. They might be able to compete a little bit more than we thought. So I think all three of these picks are excellent picks that really help make this team a whole lot better than what they are right now.
And you have them at all three levels of the defense too. You've addressed the line, the linebacking crew, and the secondary all here in the first round. Definitely something to build off of. 28th overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. We have Charles Omenihu, defensive tackle out of Texas. They already have a great pass rush there in LA, but he would really stabilize the interior defensive line for them.
Yeah, they need to work on the interior defensive line a little bit. And I've seen a lot of people sending defensive tackles to the Los Angeles Chargers, which I agree with. Now, I don't see anybody sending a Minahu, though. So we're the only ones really saying that right now. But this is another guy who really performed well at the combine, helped his draft stock a little bit. By the time we get to draft day, he might have helped himself up into that first round. There's a few guys you could mix in here at this point, though. You could really adjust based on what happens over the next couple of weeks. But I'm pretty solid in thinking they're going to take a defensive tackle.
Yep, absolutely. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs. They just lost D Ford, looking for some pass rush help now. Cleveland Farrell, edge rusher out of Clemson, really, takes over that D Ford role and helps him out on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, I had him a lot higher pre-combine. Didn't have a great combine, though, so he's fallen a little bit. I still think he is a potential first-round talent, though. There might just be a few more things that they have to clean up with him than what I had originally thought. So still going towards the end of the round here. I know for Kansas City, we talked about secondary a lot between the last mock drafts, but because D Ford is gone now, they really need some help on the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and the 30th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers with their second first-round pick. We mentioned it when we talked about them earlier. They need help at safety, but it was too early to take it earlier in the first round. They get it here. Juan Thornhill, safety out of Virginia, tries to stabilize that secondary for them because safety is really a huge need for the Packers.
He's a little bit different than Clinton Dix, who is out of Green Bay now. Of course he would. Who's out of Green Bay now. He was a guy that would play up in the box. Thornhill is a converted cornerback, so he is quite athletic. He can do a lot more things in coverage that Clinton Dix could not do. So I think this is a good pick for him and a little bit different adjustment for that defense that actually helps them and is a lot better. Solid corners there already. He would only help to stabilize another division that, has some decent quarterbacks in it.
Right, absolutely. All right, number 31, the Los Angeles Rams. They lost Roger Saffold, right? They need some help there on the offensive line now. They want to continue to run the ball effectively and protect Jared Goff. They go Garrett Bradbury, offensive lineman out of NC State here, 31st overall.
Yeah, and in our other mock drafts, we've talked about safety, we've talked about other defensive options, but they ended up bringing in Eric Weddle. They made some moves on the defensive side of the ball. So with this, Garrett Bradbury, another guy that's got that fringe round one, round two grade on him. They have to replace Saffold. If Todd Gurley, CJ Anderson, whoever is going to be running the ball for them next year, is going to continue to be effective. They need to make sure that they keep that offensive line running smoothly, and Bradbury could step in and help with that.
That's right. All right, with the last pick of the first round, this one could go a couple different ways. Mm-hmm. The Patriots have options here at 32. There's still a ton of talent left on the board. We have them taking tight end TJ Hawkinson out of Iowa, but there's somebody else that if he falls this far in the draft could be very intriguing to the Patriots, Kyle.
Yeah, it would be hard to pass on N'Keal Harry if he were to fall all the way down here. But really the thing that made me say, let's go tight end is because of Gronkowski. He could be done at any minute, and he's been such a versatile weapon for Tom Brady that Hawkinson, if Gronkowski were to leave, Hawkinson jumps right into that role. If Gronkowski says, you know what, I'm going to go another year, then they're back to having that two tight end set that they were very successful with when they had Hernandez and Gronkowski when they were both playing. So
yeah, and they have options, and that's the last thing the Patriots need is options because they usually tend to make the right choice. Though this was our 5.0 version of this mock draft. More than likely will be our last mock draft before the NFL draft. And it's really going to depend if there's other moves that happen. If they are, we'll readdress it then. But if you disagree or you have a comment or maybe you see something else that we didn't see here on this draft board, put it down in the comment section. We like to be interactive. We like to communicate with you guys. Trying to figure out the best possible solutions for these teams is sometimes like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in like 30 minutes. It's next to impossible just because there's so many options. As soon as I said that, Kyle perked up like he solved a Rubik's Cube in 30 minutes before, but we'll never find out. Nope. Never.
I have not. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button and become a part of Headliner Nation today.
That's right. And if you do become a member of Headliner Nation, throw that down in the comment section also. We would love to acknowledge it and welcome you. We appreciate all the support here. Channel's continuing to grow. Definitely looking forward here to the NFL draft. Any questions, put them down below. We'll be hearing from you here later in the week. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.